Hey guys, I'm Katie,
And I'm Ryan.
and this is the list where we're watching IMDb's top 100 movies of all time and telling you whether they belong on a bucket or a chuck it list. Every time I say that, I almost want to stop recording and start over.
Sounds
But
really
on the other
corny,
hand,
but
it's so
it
clever.
works.
It does. It really
So
does work.
clever.
This week we watched Double Indemnity. Do do do
A film
do
noir.
do 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 do
That's Double
do do.
Jeopardy.
Double Indemnity. This style of filmmaking is characterized by elements like cynical heroes, stark lighting effects, frequent use of flashbacks, and intricate plots. Ding ding ding. Ryan.
What is film noir?
Yes, correct. Let me explain how we got there. Double Indemnity, Double Jeopardy, Jeopardy, Daily Double.
Thank you, Michael Scott,
For
for breaking that down. That train of thought for us.
Double Indemnity is indeed a film noir. You got extra points for saying it like that, by the
For
way.
that.
Yeah.
I didn't wager anything though, so
Well,
how many did I get?
we'll have to see if we can contact Alex Trebek.
It's like, oh wow. It's like, whose line is it anyway? The points don't really
The points don't matter. Yeah. We won't contact Alex Trebek, obviously, but we could contact that guy who you remember the SNL skit?
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. We'll talk to Sean Connery about
Did you know that tomorrow starts Noir-vember?
Oh, that was so bad.
It's a real thing, though. It's a real thing.
No, it isn't. You made that up.
Noir-vember. Where people just watch film noir during that month.
I didn't know that. We should have saved this for a couple more days. That's so cool.
Oh, now it's cool because it's a real thing. I see.
Did you make it up or not?
When I said, I didn't make it up. I'm not that clever. Come on now.
Is this like a Mean Girls situation? Stop trying to make film noir happen. Noir-vember happen. It's not going to happen.
It might be. I don't know. I didn't make it up though. It's not.
Where did you hear about this?
I just saw it on a video that I was watching earlier this week. Yeah. That was funny.
What
he was like Noir-vember, and I was like, really? All right, I have to say that.
I like how you hid that from me and just sprung it on me like that. I wonder how often you've just been sitting around thinking about how you're going to say Noir-vember.
I like to catch you off guard just to see what you'll do sometimes.
It's pretty good. I was off guard, that's for sure. All right, so for Noir-vember, we watched Double Indemnity. This will be releasing in November. So actually, rewind. For Noir-vember, we intentionally watched a film noir. We both knew about it. We made this decision together. We made this decision together purposefully.
She didn't know anything about it.
I'm the one who told you about it. You didn't know about Noir-vember until 30 seconds ago when I mentioned it on the podcast.
No. She made fun of me.
Anyway, the truth of this, we both know what the truth actually is, and we're going to move on. We watched Double Indemnity, which was a film noir. And this is right after we watched Maltese Falcon, which you feel like doesn't really fall into the film noir genre, right?
I mean, it does. It does, but it didn't have that it didn't have this third man vibe that I associate more with
film
noir than the Maltese Falcon.
Although
this one didn't have as dark and sinister as a feel to it either. But then when you think about it, like when you're watching it, I didn't have the dark feeling, but when I started thinking about it, I'm like, this is a dark film. It
was that way for me the entire time.
I was
really? Like, yeah. But it also is interesting to me that this is our 10th movie and 3 of them have been film noirs. And I wonder how many more are on the list. It's just so funny. It's just something I've never watched before now.
But yeah, there's been a lot just in the 9 films that we've watched. There's been 3 out of the 9. So
yeah. And anyway, I won't say that yet because I don't want to spoil how I feel about it. But anyway, so we watched Double Indemnity, and I'm going to tell you what it's about. It's about this guy named Walter Neff. He's an insurance salesman, and it opens up.
Fred McMurray.
Fred McMurray, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You knew him from like Nickelodeon or whatever, right?
No, so I've seen. I remember originally seeing him on several Disney films back in the day.
Disney, okay, yeah.
The Absent-Minded Professor, like the Flubber. Shaggy, not Shaggy DA, but the Shaggy Dog. Mm-hmm. And then he was a big TV star for a lot of years afterwards. My Three Sons. I don't know if you remember that.
No,
where he plays the dad and a single dad basically raising. I was not around to watch My Three Dads when it was out. Come on.
Whether you were or weren't, we'll move on.
But I've really just seen him in these kind of light movies.
Yeah.
And I always loved him in those. And I was really excited to see him in this one.
So. I really find it difficult sometimes to see somebody who you always associate with something funny, like the guy from Seinfeld, George. Mm-hmm. He was in something one time, and I was like, this is hard for me to put the two of you together and not immediately just be like, that's George from Seinfeld. So I'm glad that I don't know Fred McMurray from anything, because it was just nice to just enjoy the part he was playing. But it sounds like that didn't bother you.
No.
It didn't throw you off or anything.
I mean, I don't want to jump the gun. I mean, but this is my favorite thing I've seen. This is my favorite thing I've seen him in.
Okay.
Just because the depth of acting and character is so more complex than I've seen him in other things.
Okay, so let me tell what the movie's about. I'm sorry. So Fred McMurray playing Walter Neff. So Walter Neff is an insurance salesman, and the movie actually starts off with him having been shot in the shoulder, and he's stumbling into his insurance company at night and bleeding everywhere, sits down at his boss's desk and starts recording a confession. So immediately you're hooked. What's going on? And he basically says, I killed somebody. You can count this as my confession. And something that is a part of the film noir genre happens. It flashes back and it starts to show us what happened before this. And the flashback opens with him at Barbara Stanwyck's house. She's playing Phyllis Diedrichson. Mm-hmm. And he's there to talk to her husband to sell him car insurance, but he's not home. Phyllis is there, and Walter's really struck by how beautiful she is. And he's like, hey, do you want to buy...
She does come to the door like in her towel.
Basically naked, yeah. And he's like, well, maybe I could sell you some car insurance, pretty lady. And she's like, I don't know about car insurance, but I just had like an interesting random thought. Like, I'm just like kind of spitballing here, but what if like instead I took out an accidental insurance policy on my husband and we didn't tell him about it? Like totally JK, unless you're feeling it. And Walter's like, hey there, pretty lady. I've been, that accent's wrong. Let me start over. Hey there, pretty lady. Hey there, pretty lady.
Here, baby.
Listen here, baby. I'm an insurance salesman. I know you're trying to pull one over on me, and that's not going to happen. I'm too smart for you. And so then she like bats her eyes and pouts a little bit. And he's like, okay, I reconsidered. I'll kill your husband for you.
Wow.
And
quite like that,
she's
but
like,
yes, you get the
she's
gist.
like, slay. That sounds great. So they plot to kill her husband. And do they succeed? Or do they? Dun, dun, dun. And that's...
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the gist of the story, even though it's told in the most outrageous way I could possibly
Okay.
think of that story. But
I think the actual movie told it in the most outrageous way possible.
I disagree.
I'm just making it relatable to our listeners.
Relatable, yes. Sure.
Whomst among us has not been seduced by a woman wearing an anklet to kill her husband?
Relatable. Understandable.
Relatable. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is double indemnity. The double indemnity part is that
they can get
there's
double
an insurance clause.
money.
Yeah, they get double the money if he dies a certain way. And so even though Walter didn't want anything to do with it to begin with, once he's in it, he's like, we're not just gonna make a little bit of money if I'm gonna do this. We're gonna make bank.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good.
It was good. I loved it.
This is my favorite film noir, I think I've
really
ever seen. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I liked Third Man better or not. I have to think about it for a minute.
This was way better. This was
to you
leagues better.
To you.
to everyone except you. You're just I don't know.
I read a bunch of background stuff on it, and like the funniest thing on Double Indemnity after we watched, and the funniest thing I could find is that Fred McMurray couldn't get over Barbara Stanwyck's wig. I didn't even notice it was a wig.
She had a wig?
But he kept saying she looked like George Washington. And it was like hard to act because he was like, you look like George Washington with that wig on.
That's too funny. That's too funny. Yeah. No, I didn't see that. I did see a story where, so I guess back in the day, they just signed with a film company and they were obligated to do so many films with that company. So
like MGM would be like, hey, I'm calling you in. Yeah. But they would be like, I'm calling you in. It's time for you to do one of your 6 movies or whatever.
Yeah. And the director was trying to find a man they needed a tall guy. They needed a strong actor.
He's tall for sure.
Yeah. He was like 6'3" is what I was reading. He's a pretty tall guy. And I guess during that time, no leading males really wanted to play a murderer, a villain.
Yeah.
And even though he is the protagonist in this film, but he's also
kind of a slime ball.
He's also the bad guy, right?
Yeah, he is.
And he was not trained as an actor. He actually was a saxophone player.
Really? And I wish they would have had him play it a little bit.
He got into Broadway and they needed a tall guy to do a line. And so he ended up doing that. And then he kind of got into the acting career that way. But
didn't something like that happen to Harrison Ford? Didn't he like stumble into Star Wars?
He was like working as a film crew or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, hey, get over here. And now he's Harrison Ford.
But basically the director called him and said, hey, I want you to do this. And he was like, this is going to take some acting. Like, I'm just a saxophone player. Like, I don't know if I'm really the man for this. Didn't really want to even take the part either, just because he didn't want to be, that type of film or that type of character on film or whatever.
Yeah.
And I guess Billy Wilder just said, yeah, you're
contracted. Get over
here.
And
he did amazing.
He did great. So we're talking about the acting first then.
Yeah.
I thought he did great.
I
thought everybody did great.
Yes. All around, every actor on the camera was phenomenal.
My favorite actor was Keyes, the boss.
Keyes was really good.
He was so good. Mm-hmm. There's this one scene where he comes in to Walter Neff's house and Phyllis is there, or Phyllis is on the way, and he shows up randomly and he's like, something doesn't feel right. And you're so tense because, Phyllis is on the way. And if he sees them together, he's going to know something's up. But the acting in that whole scene was so incredible, but especially from Keyes. The whole time he was just great. In the end scene, he was incredible.
And I think part of why the acting was so good is that the screenplay was written so
it was great.
Nicely. So unlike I mean, I know you disagree.
Maltese Falcon.
Maltese Falcon, you thought it was witty and
I
quippy.
did think there was some. I thought there was merit to the dialogue.
I
Jumping
thought this
ahead
was
to dialogue,
refined
this was
better.
way better.
Yeah.
Just to jump ahead to some of the things that are said in the beginning, even he's like, "I'm going to make my confession. I killed a man for a girl and for money, and I didn't get the girl and I didn't get the money." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then there's a scene where he comes in and he comes to her house for the first time, and the maid is like, "Okay, well, fine, come in, but the liquor cabinet's locked." And he's like, "I carry my own keys."
Yeah.
And
There's some
so
funny little
many
things. There's a
good.
part where they're flirting, and talking about getting in car wrecks and she's like, "You're going awful fast, aren't you?" He's like, about 45. What do you say? She's like, "You're going about 90."
Yeah. And
and
then there was the scene where they're talking to the head of the company. Keys and Neff are talking to the head of the company because he's like, "I'm not paying out this money. And what are you doing dressed in here? What are you doing coming into my office dressed like that?"
Yeah.
And they go through this whole back and forth, and Keys comes out on top, and he's like, "Don't worry, next time I'll wear a tuxedo." And it was just so clever.
There's a lot of clever lines and
really
writing.
clever.
And not only that, but the way they tied the writing in, like nothing was really said that
for no reason
did not add to the story.
Yes,
Yeah,
I agree.
It wasn't filler. It was mostly important stuff, and it was done fantastically. I loved it.
When you're
it came off funny. It came off,
not a funny movie either.
No, but some of
those
little one-liners there's a lot of really funny elements to it, even though the subject matter is pretty serious.
Yeah. When you're reading a book and you are sitting in like your living room, but in your brain, you're somewhere else, you're like enveloped in the book, and then you laugh out loud at something. Like, I don't laugh out loud at books a lot. I enjoy it. I'm so into it that I don't really laugh, but a book gets you some kind of dialogue or some little quip or something gets you so good that you laugh out loud. I felt like that watching this movie where I was like, "What? That's so clever."
Yeah, several moments during this film where it was really funny.
Yeah, so I feel like that the reason we're jumping between acting and writing in this one is because they go so hand in hand in this movie. The acting is elevated by the writing, and the writing is elevated by the actors.
Yes.
And both are a 9 for me. I would say 9 for story, 9 for acting.
Yeah, I think, and I believe this film was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, and one of them was for Best Screenplay.
And it wasn't
Best Picture, Best Screenplay, Best Director, Best Supporting Best Female Actress. I can't remember what the other ones were, but those were the ones. And you can really see why watching this.
Lola was a really great actress too. The daughter of the man who's killed. She was great. Her grief was great and very real. Her passion to figure out who killed her dad was very real. I have 0 complaints about the acting. And I also
think
wanted
acting,
to say
top tier, 9.8.
That's high.
9.8 for me. It was really good.
I also wanted to say that the writing wasn't trying to try hard either.
Yeah,
it was clever in a very easy way.
Yes. And I think a lot of that has to do with Fred McMurray's delivery of that. He's just naturally talented at the timing of delivering the line, and it just makes it just smooth.
And did you rate story?
So we haven't really talked about story. We talked about acting.
I feel like and then we kind of jumped into the dialogue. So then we'll transition to story. Yeah. And I'll just say that the story, I gasped out loud at one point. Do you remember? I literally gasped at a reveal.
No, I don't remember.
I won't say what yet. I'll save that for the spoiler section.
Okay.
But the story had me gripped. Okay, let me actually start over. I despise a flashback. Do not ever put me into a movie or a TV show where you're going to go, look at me in this terrible situation. Now rewind 2 years ago. I'm like, no, just show me what is happening. Start from where you're going to start. Don't spoil it for me. It feels like a spoiler, but it didn't in this movie. It was done so well.
Well, they tell you what's going to happen in the first
Yes.
10 seconds
And
of the movie.
usually I hate that. I did not hate it in this movie.
But it was revealed so... I think this is a perfect story.
Smooth.
Like, I think this is a perfect film.
Yeah.
Because, number one, they had me captivated the moment the film started.
The second.
From the beginning. And the pace and the timing on how it was revealed that they committed this murder had me, like, I was so honed in on the whole experience that I guess I didn't even know you gasped during one part. But I was dialed in the entire time. There was not a single moment where I was like, get on with it. Let's move to the next part. Like,
that's how I always feel when they reveal it in the beginning. I'm like, get to the part that we've already seen and then show me what happens after. That's all I care about.
And the flashbacks, I know you say you despise them, but the way that it was done,
incredible,
was done perfectly.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to say is this is the blueprint, and it's incredible. This is how flashbacks should be done. This is how, hey, look at this terrible situation I'm in. Let's figure out how I got there. Usually falls flat for me. I hate it. I just want to get to the point we've already seen. But in this, I'm assuming one of the very first times that this has happened in a classic film noir is done. I get why people do it now because they're trying to do this. They don't, but they're trying. And it was done so well. And even though you know what's going to happen, you're still shocked at some things that are revealed along the way. And it was really, really good story.
And there's a lot of cool elements just and I think that has to do with because of the genre of film, complex subject matter. It's kind of dark, it's kind of gritty, even though, like, I feel like a terrible person saying this, but like, even though like the main characters are the bad guys, like, didn't you kind of like, I found myself wanting them to get away with this murder.
Okay,
like,
so
even though I was like, they're murderers, but I was like, I kind of want them to get away with it.
I had that feeling in Taxi Driver. I keep bringing it up that I knew he was not who I should be rooting for, but I still kind of rooted for him.
I was like, this guy's crazy.
I didn't have it in this movie. I know that this is a different time and I can't shout, just get divorced. I get it. I get that this is not the same as it is now. You don't have to murder somebody, just get divorced. I know I can't say that now, but no, I don't think...
Tomatoes.
I don't think I was ever rooting for them. But I did want to say... Here's the difference between this and Maltese Falcon. In Maltese Falcon, I did not like anybody. And there was no protagonist and there was nobody to root for. And I was like, what is this? I don't want to watch this. In this movie, I don't root for them. They're both doing something really bad. I feel like he's an idiot. Why are you going along with this? You barely know this woman. Why are you agreeing to kill her husband? What are you doing? And with her, I'm like, are you like made of evil? Why are you murdering your husband? And the difference is between these two movies for me, I'm enjoying the story so much of Double Indemnity that I still am riveted and want to know what happens. In Maltese Falcon, I had nothing to care about. There's something missing from Maltese Falcon, some kind of it factor that the story didn't have for me, that this story did have, that kept me riveted despite not... Because I went on and on about it last week. I was like, there's nobody to root for. There's nobody to care about. There's nobody to hook onto and want to see what happens. And this one too, I feel like there was nobody I identified with or was rooting for, but still the story I couldn't turn away from.
See, I didn't feel that way. I felt like he was super charismatic, so I really liked him. And then towards the end, he actually had somewhat redeeming qualities because it's really his guilt.
He was sympathetic.
And he starts hanging out with the daughter of the man that they murdered, and his guilt drives him to do what he does in the end.
I never hated
And
him, but I never was in your position where I wanted them to get away with it, I don't think.
yeah, they almost had me rooting for him a couple times,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like, no, these guys are horrible.
Well, actually, I'm going to take that back. The scene I was talking about before where I said that, so they've killed the husband and the insurance company is suspecting that there's foul play. And she is calling Walter to meet up with them. And Walter's like, yes, you can come up. Nobody's watching you anymore. The second he hangs up the phone, somebody knocks on the door and it's his boss.
Oh.
And so they have this scene where
Yeah, that was very
she's
tense.
on the way. I didn't want them to get caught. So I guess you're right. There were a couple of times where I was hoping that they didn't get caught.
Even though
I
you know
don't
it's
know if
doomed
I
from
could
the
use the
very
word
get-go.
rooting, though. I don't know if I was rooting for them, but I also didn't want them to get caught. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was interesting to find myself, in that position because I didn't think I would be there.
Yeah.
So, but I think this is a perfect story. I think it's a 10 for me all the
Wow.
way around.
Nice.
I don't know if have I given a 10 to anything else, but I think
I think so. You
but
gave a
this is
0
definitely a
last
10.
week.
I know.
So
Cinematography.
beautiful. I said
Really?
this about The Third Man. Beautiful is the word I use for these movies, and it feels like not enough. It feels like such a common word. Oh, that's beautiful, beautiful, pretty, whatever. But I mean it like with the fullness of the word. This is a beautiful movie. The shots, the stark shots that come with the film noir are so pretty to me. The
Yeah, you have those
lighting.
classic elements, the light on darkness elements all throughout this. There's some pretty cool iconic scenes as well, like shots.
Yes. I have a couple written down that I really liked. There's the one where Walter's in the back seat to murder her husband, and he goes to do it, and it just cuts to her with her hands on the steering wheel staring ahead for really long shot, longer than you would expect. And just watching her face, the way it's framed very well, and then just watching her face and as her husband's being murdered next to her.
Well, that's
Was an
kind of where I
interesting
started to
shot to me.
realize that she is pure evil because, there's a little part where he's like, his hand starts trembling a little bit.
Yeah. He was
And
struggling.
she is just calm, cool, and
Yeah.
collected the entire time. And we find out why later. But, yeah, she's devious.
Yeah.
Devious.
There was also a shot of him walking down the train cars that I thought was very cinematic and very pretty. I don't know what other word to use. It's just pretty. I really liked it.
Wow.
What did you think? Well, what did you think about the cinematography?
Yeah, I liked it. This is an older film too. I think it was 44 is when it was filmed, and to me, it's on par with other elements that I see in modern day cinema.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't say anything super artsy or groundbreaking as far as my limited knowledge on the subject goes. So I would probably just give it a solid 7,
I'm going
above
to give it
average.
an 8.5.
Okay.
There were some scenes I really enjoyed at the end that I don't want to say either until the spoiler section, but
Okay.
there were quite a few scenes that were striking to me. And then wow factor, I think I'm going to give it a 9. Just the combination of the story, the dialogue, the acting, how pretty it was, and just the gripping nature of the movie. We watched another movie recently, and I'm just looking at my phone every once in a while. This is a really long movie. How long have I been sitting through this?
I didn't
Not
feel
once.
this at
Not a
all.
single time.
You were like,
I was
whoa, that
I was
it's over.
captivated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like you want to feel during a movie, which is that you're not thinking about anything else. You're experiencing another world for just a couple of hours, and you're carried away and enjoying every minute of it. And that's how I felt during this movie.
I agree 100%. For me, the wow factor, perfect storytelling, gripping, captivating from beginning to end. Acting is phenomenal. I think it's a combination of all those things. Dialogue and the screenplay. Beautiful. I probably wouldn't score it quite as high, but 8 for me.
It was good.
But it's great. It's really, I don't think we've seen a perfect film yet, but I think, in my opinion, this is a perfect film.
That's wow.
Perfect film as far as storytelling goes.
Yeah.
Like everything is just, I don't think you could have done it without going through the flashbacks.
Yeah, no, you
you
great.
could have done it, but it wouldn't have been as good
exactly
as it was.
Right. It's that
There's still, even though they tell you in the very beginning, exactly what's going to happen, there's still mystery about how it all went down, and you are like, what happened? How did it go down?
It's
like,
the
I want to know.
tone it sets when he walks in and he's like shot in the shoulder, but he's still swaggering in and he's still got that voice that the protagonist in film noirs have. And he's like, you know, I killed somebody and I'm going to tell you all about it. I killed him for money and a girl and I didn't get either. And you're just like, who are you? And what are you? I want to watch what happens to you. Also, you're super tall. And I really liked the femme fatale in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought she was great.
Yeah,
I thought
and
she was fantastic.
The relationship,
and I hated her.
Yeah, you hate her. Yeah. And the relationship, I think, between them played out much nicer and was more believable than any of the
so much more believable films. Because it wasn't like he was like, I'm in love with you. You're the love of my life. I've loved you from the minute I've seen you.
He was like, no, he's a good guy.
Swept up.
And he got
in a very attractive woman. Yeah. And he realizes it too. I don't like in movies where people are stupid. And nobody in this movie was stupid. Not a single person was stupid. And there was no miscommunication trope. There was no, oops, we just missed minor details. It was a very real situation where a man got caught up with a really pretty woman, did something stupid, and then said, oh crap, I did something really stupid. And had to live with his mess. And I loved it. I think that's another reason, just talking about it, why I love the story so much, is that there were no easy ways out. There was no, we're just going to make it work and fit the puzzle pieces together, even if we have to chop off some things to make it fit. No, everything was so cleverly thought out and planned, and it was real. It was very down to earth and very real. And just, man,
it was great.
That was good.
Yeah. Is this a bucket list movie?
Yeah,
I think so. I think so. I think it's a great movie. This is a really good movie. I think so too.
I did want to say something. Did you notice there were a couple of things that bothered me? Did you notice just little nitpicky things? How when they were in the supermarket, the lady walks up and she's like, "Can you hand me that baby food up there?" And it's like at his chest. Like it's not high up, like little things like that. I was like, y'all couldn't have made the counter just a little bit higher or had her just grab it or something. I thought that was funny. And I wanted to say,
that didn't bother me at all. No.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny. And then I also thought it was so funny that just some things I liked from the movie when she was talking so much and he just goes, "Shut up, baby," and kisses her. I was like, oh my gosh. That was really funny to me.
Yeah.
And I also, I don't know. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, that was it. I was just curious on whether or not you thought it was a bucket list movie, and
what
do you would recommend it for. I do. I do, 100%.
Adults, teenagers, not kids. But otherwise, I think it's a movie for anybody to watch.
I agree.
And I do think it's a bucket list movie. And I think if you're going to pick any film noir to watch that we've watched so far, this should be the one you watch.
Yeah, it's the best film noir I've seen, which I haven't seen a lot, but I've seen enough to know that this is a great one.
Yeah.
So, should we rate it?
Sure.
And then we can talk about some
And then we'll
spoilers.
talk about spoilers. Okay, so I do want to say, just before anybody goes before the spoilers, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Ryan and Kat's List. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of us. If you just want to DM us there with any feedback or questions or thoughts you had about the movies. If you've watched any of the movies that we have on the podcast and you want to give your opinion, we'll read it on air in the next episode. So feel free to send us any DMs on Instagram or a voicemail on Spotify. Leave us a voicemail. I want
She wants
somebody
a
to leave
voicemail.
us a voicemail. Mom, I know you listen to the
Mom.
podcast. Can you please call and leave me a voicemail on Spotify?
That's too funny.
Okay, so follow us on Ryan and Kat's List on Instagram. Rate the podcast if you're enjoying it. And that's the end of my shilling. We'll rate. I want to rate first because I don't want to be. I want to get my rating done if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
I'm still debating kind of where I want to put it. So I don't really know. Usually before I know, but it's getting hard.
Yeah, this is our 9th movie, huh? Okay,
Yep.
so I'm moving down. I know for a fact it's going to go above Maltese Falcon, North by Northwest, Yankee Doodle Dandy, Taxi Driver, Rear Window, and Rebel Without a Cause, and Wuthering Heights. Where I'm struggling is I loved Third Man. And here's where the internal struggle comes for me. I thoroughly enjoyed the people in The Third Man. I really connected with the characters and I was rooting for them, and the main character was a good person that I wanted to see succeed. I think that Double Indemnity is a better story. It's more gripping.
I think so.
It's an easier watch. Both of the endings were so good to me. I was so satisfied with both endings. I think that despite how much I love the characters of Third Man, just how good the story of Double Indemnity is makes it a better movie for me. And I think I'm going to move it to my top spot with reservations, with a very razor thin margin. If I could put them both on first, I would. But I think I'm moving Double Indemnity up to first place.
I can respect that.
It was a struggle though.
I respect that. Let me share my screen here then. Okay, so at the moment I have Wuthering Heights number 1, Rebel Without a Cause 2, Rear Window 3, Yankee Doodle Dandies 4, North by Northwest 5, The Third Man number 6, Taxi Driver 7, and The Maltese Falcon as number 8. So Double Indemnity 100% above this. Above Taxi Driver, above Third Man, above North by Northwest. This is kind of where I start to
question. Me too.
Where it gets difficult because these are Wuthering Heights, Rebel Without a Cause, and Rear Window are all really great movies. And I think I'm with you on this one. I think I'm moving it to number 1 just because how captivating the story was from beginning to end. It's just fantastic. And how everything just meshes together so perfectly. I think that's where I'm going to be. But it's really hard between those 4 to kind of move those around. So it's the margins are razor thin. Razor thin.
There are movies on this list that I'm like, I get why they're on the list. They were really great at cinematography, or they were like in their time blockbusters, and they really did something that makes film critics go, this movie is so important. And then there are other movies on the list that are just good movies that you have to watch. And those top 4 are the movies that I feel like at this point, getting down to about it's somewhere between Rear Window and Taxi Driver for me, where I'm like, you need to watch all of these movies.
Yeah, I think this movie is just a culmination of all those things.
Yeah.
Together, along with the
Well-rounded.
enjoyability factor that goes along with it, to really just kick it up.
Yeah.
To the top there. Great
Such a good
film.
movie. Let's talk about spoilers. I want to tell you where I gasped.
Okay.
So, what happens in the movie is they meet, they decide to kill the husband, they figure out how to do it, they kill the husband. One of the first movies of highest tension for me are number one, when the guy's outside on the train track, when he's supposed to fall off and die. He's pretending to be the husband. He's going to fall over and die. But there's a guy on the train tracks watching him. And I'm like, how's he going to get rid of this guy? That was tension number one. The second moment of just extreme tension to me is when they get in the car to leave after they plant the body and it won't start.
And the car won't start. I was like, ooh.
And their faces are so real. It's so visceral. It's what you would look like if you were in a car after murdering somebody and it wouldn't start. It was so visceral. I felt it. And so the tension was so good in this movie.
Yeah.
Then we get to the part that I gasped at. Lola comes in and she's like, well, they think they get away with it, right? And then people at the insurance company start questioning. And then Lola starts questioning. And she comes to him and she's like, I don't think my dad died accidentally. I think Phyllis killed him. And then she says, when my mom died, she was really, really sick. And I came into the room and all the windows were open and she didn't have a blanket on her and she was freezing because she was really sick. So I ran and closed the windows and covered her up. And then I turned to the door and saw her nurse standing in the door watching me. Do you know who that nurse was, Mr. Neff? It was Phyllis. And I said, I was like, you're joking. Yeah, I didn't know.
No, well, they mentioned it in the beginning of the film.
I missed
that
it.
She told him that she was his nurse.
Yeah, I
but
missed
I
that.
did not think anything about it until then, and I was like, "Oh snap!"
I literally involuntarily gasped
to get with the guy, and now she's gonna kill him.
Kill the guy too, and that's when the movie.
And that's when I think he realizes too that she's
evil.
She is not really interested in me. I loved her. She didn't love me. She was just trying to get me to do what she wanted.
Yeah. So
and then that on top of all his guilt, I think was a turning point for him.
That was a moment where the movie went from however many stars to a whole nother star added. And then further on in the movie, more stars got added for me. But that was the moment where the movie went from one level to the next because it took me by utter surprise. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it a million more times again with 100 movies to watch. But I've studied story structure so much that it's almost irritating to watch movies with me because I'll go, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is what happens next. With this one, I was shocked.
Yeah, they mentioned it so subtly that it didn't even register until
it was a Chekhov's gun.
Came back again. And that's what I'm talking about when I said all the lines that were delivered in this movie had a purpose behind them because they dropped that way in the beginning of the film and then they came back towards the end to tell you why that was significant. That's planned. That's not something that happens by chance.
No, and it's Chekhov's gun, but it's not done in a way where the second they say it, you're like, Chekhov's gun. That's going to come back in play. There's no way that's not going to be what happens. It was extraordinarily well done because I was shook. I was shocked. I loved that Lola never wanted to be with Neff. I loved that she always wanted to be with her guy, that he helped them get back together in the end. And I thought that it was so interesting to watch her turn from, I love you, help me, into if I'm going down, you're going down. Like speedy fast. He was like, we can't do this anymore. We are in big trouble. We have to drop it. And she was like, we're not dropping anything. And you're going to take the fall for all of this. Then she's in the last scene. This is what was so cinematic to me. Watching her in the last scene in that room that's darkly lit, but lit in the way that only a film noir is. Yeah. And she's going around the room planning her gun, sitting down, lighting the cigarette. Then he comes in. It's that swagger he has, I think, that makes him so charismatic in this movie. He's there to murder her, yet he's still like, I'm going to close the window because I don't want to hear that noise anymore. That music's on my nerves. And it's just the way he moves and speaks that makes him so magnetic.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't like him, he's magnetic. And I love that he shot her. I love it. I love that there was no moment of, oh, you're beautiful, maybe I shouldn't do it. No, she deserved it and he gave it to her. And I love that. I don't know why, but I do.
He saved the boyfriend from taking the fall at the end as well. So he's trying to
redeem
put things
himself
right as much as he possibly can, and then goes and gives his confession.
Yeah.
There's a scene, I can't remember what the exact line is. He's like, where he's laying on the floor bleeding out, and Keys, and he's like, I know why you couldn't see this one.
Yeah. You're too close to it.
You couldn't see this one. And he's like, you were too close. You were too close to the person on this one.
Yeah.
Right across your desk. And Keys goes, closer than that.
Yeah, it broke my heart.
It's kind of like,
it really broke my heart.
So there's some cool moments like that scattered throughout all the film. But
I like how the whole movie he's lighting those matches for people. And then in the end, he puts the cigarette in, and the boss lights one for him. I really liked that. He never had a match on him, never could light one. And then in the end, he lights one for him. I love that the boss doesn't let him get away with it. He's like, please just let me run. And he's like, you're not going to make it to the elevator, dude. Yeah. And he doesn't. And he calls the police on him. Yeah. And I don't know. I loved it.
Just satisfying all around.
Yeah.
It's a great film.
Did you know that there's something called the Hays Code in this time where movies weren't allowed to let murderers get away with it?
Oh, no, I did not know that.
There are a lot of rules. And one of the rules was you couldn't show a villain getting away with something like this. They couldn't murder somebody and then get away scot-free.
Really?
Yeah. And then actually in the book, there was a scene at the end of the movie that they cut out. And there's some speculation on why they cut it out, but it's a movie based on a book. And in the book, they do get away with it, but they meet up years later and commit a double suicide because they're so racked with guilt over what they did. And in the movie, they show them getting gassed. So I'm guessing they get caught, not in the movie, in the cut scene from the movie. They show the two of them getting like killed.
Like execution chamber or whatever. For after their trial,
right? And some people are saying it got cut because it was only in there to show that they were condemning the murderers, and they did not get away with it because that's how serious the Hays Code was, or whatever. And then I did also want to say one more thing. Did you notice how she was like so bothered that she could feel love? They're embracing each other, and he's got the gun on her. And he's like, you couldn't do it. And she's like, because she could feel love for him, she couldn't do it. And she's like,
she was going to kill him.
Yeah. And she was like, in this genuine despair over the fact that she had been able to feel love. She like laments the fact that she felt love for him. And I thought that was a really, I don't want to say it was a beautiful scene, but it was an interesting scene, that to see her just so bothered by the fact that she loved him and that it had been her ruin there at the end because she couldn't kill him. Well, thank you guys for listening. This has been our 9th episode of The List. Next week, we're watching The Great Dictator with Charlie Chaplin. He's on the list quite a few times too. Make sure to let us know what you think on Instagram. Maybe we should make I don't know. I feel like Twitter's dying, so never mind. But you could get a carrier pigeon, or you could get a Maltese falcon and train it to send us notes. And let us know what you think. But one way or the other, let us know. Preferably by voicemail. And we'll see you next week for The Great Dictator.
Bye.
Bye.